this week's episode of our new podcast, What Remains, a teenager who couldn't let the case of an unidentified Kentucky woman go goes on to change how missing and murdered people are searched for in the U.S. Let's listen to a little bit of what Matthews has to say in episode 4.
You know, I started out with an unidentified body, so I knew the end. So reverse engineering this back to the family, just a satisfaction to be able to unravel something that somebody tried so hard to hide at some point. You know, somebody didn't get away with murder.
Well, WRAL's Amanda Lamb is joining us now to tell us a little bit more about Todd Matthews and what he's done for both missing and murdered people. He really does sound like a fascinating guy.
Oh, he is such a character, Micaiah. I had no idea when I first started researching that Todd Matthews was really a rock and roller when it comes to finding missing people in the United States. He started thinking about this case in 1969 when he was a teenager. He was 17 years old. He then talked to the person who found the body, who turned out to be his father-in-law. Very crazy story.
Wow.
And he became obsessed with it. And for 10 years, he followed this case religiously until the 90s. He made a webpage, which was pretty revolutionary. Not a lot of people were doing that. And he was able to find the person's sister and to help investigators identify this woman found in 1968 in Kentucky. He then went on to do other things. He didn't just stop there because, he was kind of passionate about this work.
And what's fascinating is what you're talking about is passion and him being able to make an impact. What happened next? Because he was very successful in his endeavor.
Right. And I mean, he was 27 years old when he solved this case, working in an automobile parts factory in Tennessee. So he starts something called the Doe Network, Jane and John Doe's, unidentified people. And he puts every piece of information. I mean, where was the body found? What was the condition? Were there clothes? Was there jewelry? And then federal officials came to him and said, hey, you're onto something. Can you help us create a national database like this? And he helped consult with NamUs, which is basically the clearinghouse for missing people in the United States.
What was your big takeaway as you looked into this and all of his work? I know he's pretty humble about all of it.
Oh, he says he's a country boy from Tennessee. And yet when you talk to him, you realize he has all this knowledge and all this passion. I mean, it started with passion for solving this one case, and now he's really changed the way we look for missing people in the United States. He's like, don't hold anything back. Every detail matters.
And it really is fascinating. He's a character in this story, but he's also the person that led to this big change that happened. What kind of impact do you still think it has today?
Oh, I think it has a huge impact. And I think that the value of putting this information out on the internet changed the way we look for missing people in the United States. And if you are a family that is desperately wanting to know what happened to your loved one, I mean, you're going to try to use these resources, and they're very important.
And Amanda, we only have 20 seconds left, but I have to tell you, so many people are listening to this. The numbers of streams to this podcast, it's just growing and growing nationwide. So thank you so much for your work, for telling these important stories. And of course, you can listen to What Remains on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you get your podcasts. For some additional materials like transcripts and blogs, go to whatremainspodcast.com. Amanda, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Micaiah.
Ken?
Yes, and